So if you've been watching the vlogs recently, you know that as per usual I've been travelling around, like I always do. I know I've got at least 3 projects that I've taken pictures of, but so far haven't yet had time to process. So this week is basically going to be catching up on processing work that I've not had time to catch up with yet. So without further ado, let's get started on the first project. First project I'm going to edit is the high fogs, not the high towers, up in northeast Alabama. So here, as you can see, we've got the pictures loaded into Lightroom. Let's go take a look and start editing. So this is the first picture. This is old or historic, whichever one you want to call it, Guntersville train station. Just zoomed in a bit. This one I took because I like the tree line here. There's too much concrete. This one's a bit better. You get the old Guntersville train station. You've got nice trees. It's a little bit on the light side. Let's start playing with this one. Up with the contrast. In with the clarity. We do need to take the highlights down. See how that brings the clouds in? Bit of colour going in here. Shouldn't need to do too much with the shadows, but I probably want to take the whites down a bit. There we go. Dehaze it. Excuse me a second, turn off the phone. And what's this? Do we have spots on the lens? Let's... Not really showing up there, but then again... Not showing up there. So this isn't spots on the lens, surprisingly enough. Not sure what that is. Anyway, this is Guntersville train station. Let's dehaze that even more and bring in the sky. Of course, when you dehaze it, you make it darker, so bring up the shadows a touch more. As you can see here, we've got information in the picture in the shadows, but they're basically pure black. So we can increase exposure just a tad. Did we get rid of it? Still there. We don't want to make it too, see, that's too bright. So let's just put it there. Yeah, we're losing a little bit of information down here and in this bush here, but nothing that actually affects the photograph that much. I am just Something seems off on that. See now, I think it might just be the angle that it took the picture at, because now it seems like it's going the other way. Let's undo that cropping angle, and let's, actually it might be straight. Okay, so that'd make it straight. So let's go back to the original picture. You don't really want to do a crop on top of a crop. Let's take that, and that way we're not completely cutting off this lamppost here. Much better. Export that. Old abandoned train tracks, the side of the train station. Not bad picture. A little bit wider angle, so you can get the sign in, and this sort of shows you exactly what it is. It's the old Guntersville train station. Once again, it's not, there's something odd. It looks like it's leaning. First of all, let's clean up the pictures though. So contrast and clarity. Bring down the highlights so we can get the sky and not get completely blown out track. Up the shadows a tad so we can get the windows. Add a smidge of colour. Punch that in. Dehaze it, which will make it darker, but just it punches the picture. Excuse me. Bring up the shadows. Now I'm trying to see what I can actually align. It might. That's better. That's better. It was leaning to the right. And there's basically the same picture. So I found, whilst I was there, I found these two little toy trains. Thomas the Tank Engines, which I thought was kind of neat. I took a picture of that. Then I had an idea, why not put Thomas on the track? Now, as you can see in this one, the focus is slightly off. The focus is back here and not exactly on the train. Plus the train's facing away. Here we have it with the train in focus. Nice f2.8, I think. Yep, blurred out backgrounds. So here's the focal plane here, and it's nice, but he's facing the wrong way. So then I got the idea, get the face towards us. It's not quite in focus. This one is. I don't know if I like the angle though. So I moved them out onto the middle track. There we go, in focus, but it's at f11. So as well as him being in focus, we don't have the blurred background. I thought I turned that off. Please, whoever it is that's texting me, please stop texting me. Bring in the shadow so we're not losing all the information. Here, I'll just punch out the colours. Then the highlights. Shouldn't need to dehaze this that much because there's not a lot of sky in the backdrop, and I'm wondering if that'll look better black and white. The only thing with the black and white is it kind of hides the train. So whip it back to colour and the train can clearly see the train in the colour. That's the angle, that's the shot I wanted. Right there with Thomas, but I was focused wrong. I was focused here. You can see it. This is clear. It's out of focus. That was the keeper shot. This one's close, but just it's not in focus. Focus is here. So close. That's the shot. That's in focus. In fact, that's the one we edited. Here's another one slightly further back. So the one that I really wanted, it didn't quite get. Anyway, this is Lake Guntersville. It's nice enough shot. F11. Not going to keep it. Spots, getting spots on the. But it's not on that one. Weird. I know I didn't clean the lens in between those two pictures. They're basically one right next to each other. You can tell by the boat. This one doesn't have one. This one does. Strange. Now this little inlet I liked, with the trees, the water, the background. I think, yeah, this is the 2040-70. I changed lenses later on and went to the 70-200 for this. It's a nice angle, it's a nice... Let's see what the 24-70 does. This was just a bit of an artsy shot. Get the water coming in over the rock. Again, not a lot. Here we go. Here's the 70-200. Get this tree in, fallen tree here, and that looks neat, that looks sharp. I like this. Even though we've cut off some of the tree, I'm at 135. So I like that one. Here we are at 70. Just a little bit further in. No. This one. This one's the keeper. I like it with this fallen tree down here. Bring in some color, not too much. Dehaze it because I want to get at least some of the sky in. There's a picnic bench right there. I didn't notice that before. Right on the edge. We can actually increase that just a smidge. See, I like that. Do I like the black and white or do I like the color? No, I like the color. Let's stick with the color for this one. And here we are at the falls. This is High Falls. Taken 2040-70. Slowed down the shutter speed here. What are we at? So this one, you can see the water sort of fairly crisp, whatever. It's 1/1600th of a second. Here we are, and the water's starting to smooth out. We're down to 1/25th of a second. Because it was so bright, we're at f22 and 100 ISO. So here we are, I was stopping down on the EV here to make things a little bit darker so that I can take the time down. Excuse me, but this one here is fairly much the money shot from this angle. Still got more to look at, but for right now we'll do this one. Nothing's blown out, so we've got detail throughout the picture. Even though I want it smooth, I'm bringing up the clarity just a bit, just to make things punch out a little bit. As you can see here, down the bottom right, I'm actually behind a chain link fence, which I just managed to snap the corner in that. It was a high fence, so I actually was taking this picture with the camera above my head. Not something you really should do. However, in some situations you don't have the choice. You've got to work with what you've got to work with. So punch up some colours, that's looking real nice. There we go, that's looking real nice. Like that one. So this one, I'm sure the histogram will see, yeah. We've overcooked it. We're down at 1/4, a quarter, 1/6, overblown. So even although, you know, we can dehaze it, I'm not going to save this one off, and reduce the exposure. Yeah, that there, what you're seeing here is what you call camera shake. When you're going down to this low of a shutter speed, you really need to be on a tripod. Back up to 1/4. Look how bright that is. So even if I take the exposure way down, we're losing information. It's white out. But these things, take the pictures whilst you're there, and you'll find out, wow, 2 seconds, yeah, when you get back to editing. So 1/10 of a second, we might be able to save this one. Let's see. Wow, dehazing all the way to 90. I don't think I've ever done that before. No, we're blown out. Still blown out. One 1/10. That's fairly much what I had on the picture I did edit. Or 1/30th. That one's blown out. Yeah, that's blown out. And we're back to 1/30th of a second. So as you can see from the progression of pictures here, I was just playing around with the shutter speed. This was in manual mode. F22, I actually dropped it down to ISO 50 to give me basically one stop more that I could play with the shutter speed. And 1/15th, that one is actually good at 1/15th of a second. Let's edit this one. I'm playing around with shutter speeds, trying to get the right picture with smooth flowing waterfall. I didn't have my camera bag with me for this. I just took the camera and I had a GoPro as well, so my hands were full. We can actually do brightening that a smidge. So I didn't have any filters with me. Perfect place for a neutral density filter. Bring in the shadows a bit. That's looking good. And so does the black and white. We're going to go with the black and white on this one. Zoomed in a bit more. I like this, what's going on here. Nothing's cut off, so we've got room to play with. But I've got the fence coming across. So I would really need to crop this, and I got a feeling that cropping it I don't know if I like that. What happens if we crop it? down to at least get rid of that overhanging branch. That's a bit better. It's on the wide side. It's not the proper aspect ratio. But just for giggles, let's edit this one. Okay. We're showing some shadow somewhere. Where's the shadow? Oh, it's the rock up here. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I like that. Actually turned out quite good. This is why you shoot in RAW, and this is why you post-process your pictures. Something that I was iffy about, didn't particularly like, just didn't have the right look and feel, you can save. That's basically the exact same shot, still at 1/15 of a second. That's nice at 110, and I don't have the fence coming in here. I do have something going on here though. I'm not sure what that is. Might just be something going on over the waterfall. It might be that I need to clean my lens. This one I do like. This is what you want for waterfalls. Nice, smooth, not sharp, smooth running water. And this is usually where, especially down here in Alabama, where everything is so bright, this is where you usually need to use filters. This is coming in nice. We can actually afford to increase. Decrease the highlights just a tad. Maybe the whites as well. Like this, like this. Now the water is brown, but I do like the colour. You've got a bit of blue purple coming through the brown water. I like this. So far that's the shot of the falls from this angle. Now here we've jacked up the shutter speed, and as you can see it's no longer smooth. Had to get a couple of shots in like this anyway, just in case. And we've got the wide angle at 1/800th of a second, just showing the complete waterfall, which we got on a previous picture. Yeah, from the angle that I had in the previous picture, from here you can't see. Up here there's a bridge going across the water, so here I am walking across the bridge, trying to get a different angle of the waterfall. You basically just can't see it. So this little outcrop of rock over here, I figured out that, hey, if they can get there, That one's out of focus, but I can get to at least here without having to climb up and whatever. So that's exactly what I done. Not quite far out here yet, but I wanted to get a low shot and get the falls from a low angle. So 1/30th of a second. As you can see, 30mm, so fairly zoomed out. Do we want this one or do we want this one? Or 1/15th of a second. And the lovely flowing water. This one here, much better angle. Now, how much highlight? We're not losing that much in the highlights. So this is a great picture. And of course I'm getting pinged again on my phone. I thought I turned this off. Ringtones all the way down. Right. Oh, that's notifications. Give me 2 seconds, hold on. Wrong button. Okay, everything's shut off. So as I was saying, this is a great picture. We do want to turn down the highlights. As you can see from the histogram, for the most part we're up in the upper quadrant. That will come down when we dehaze it though. Get some colour going on in here. There we go, bring it the water a bit. Don't really need to do that much with the shadows at all. The shadows will fairly much bring out the spray here, but not do that much because there's really nothing in shadow here. Maybe a bit of the rock here, but not much in shadow. Now when we dehaze it, look at the histogram coming down the way. And we're bringing out the water. Maybe a little bit too much, too brown on the water there. So now that we've brought that down, now we can look at the shadows to bring things up a bit. So there we go. Nice picture. But what's it like in black and white? See, I like that. I like the black and white. It works for this picture. But I also like the colour, so we're going to cheat. We're going to export again, use a unique name, and we'll get both the colour and the black and white. 1/15th of a second. That's an even lower angle yet. That one shows more of the drop off, a little bit flatter going. No, I do like the previous one. And here's a wide angle. Showing exactly, I did eventually get out to here. That's actually a bit of a jump, but you can't really see. That's a nice picture, 1/30th of a second, so it's not too... The water's still got a nice slick feel to it, it's not too droplety. I'm not sure if droplety is a word. bring in some colour. Now we do have shadows. Look at the shadows here. So let's bring in the shadows. See how much of a difference that made in this plant, bush, whatever here. And we could probably also increase the exposure just a tad. Why? Because when we dehaze it, everything moves to the left. And we don't want to underexpose. So let's bring down the highlights, bring up the shadows, probably bring down the whites a smidge, and bring up the blacks. For the most part, I don't play around with the black slider that much. You can do most of it with shadows. But in this case, there we go. We don't want it too bright here and overwhelm. Now, that one in black and white, again, that's nice in black and white. It's better in black and white. I like black and white. Let's go with the black and white. Oh, that's why I took this one. Oh, excuse me. I have no idea how they managed to get down there. That's almost a vertical drop off the end here. And you don't want to fall into this. I think there's a way to try and climb back up. We're back up at 1/1000th of a second. So we're back in the wide angle. This time we've got a higher shutter speed, 1/1250th. You can see the droplets of water, but we want to get to the pictures here. We've got a really nice one from this angle. Now we're here. Now we've got a much better angle to the whole face of the waterfall. But we're at 1/25,000th of a second. 2,500th of a second, sorry, 1/2500th of a second. And look at the force of that water. That's a 30 to 45 foot drop. And the water's coming back up. Half of that at least. At least. So, did I get this at a lower shutter speed? 1/15th of a second obviously doesn't work. Completely blown out. It doesn't matter what we do to this picture. That is, in fact, we can reduce the exposure, reduce shadows, reduce white. It doesn't matter what we do. This is the detail that we've got. All this is lost. Dehaze it makes absolutely no difference because most of the picture is lost. Perfect example of it's always better to get shadows, even that out. It's always better to get shadows than it is highlights. Highlights you lose information. Shadows you can regain that information. So 1/15th of a second seems to work. We're just about at the end, so let's see what else we've got. Remember this one here. And let's see what else we've got. 1/40th. I prefer the 1/15th. I'm just a little bit worried about we might have lost, let's just edit this one. We might have lost a little bit too much information here. Yeah, even when I bring down the whites, you can see here and here especially, we've just lost information. It was blown out. You can fairly much dehaze it all we want. This area is lost. Now this area, there is no blown highlights. So this one we can work with at 1/40th. But let's keep going. 1/640th. Here I'm playing about with the EV settings, turning the EV down. 1/80th of a second. And 1/80th zoomed. One 50th zoomed. I'm trying to get these branches here is what I was trying to do. Zoomed in. Here's the bottom. So 1/50th. Here's the 1/50th from this angle. And here's the 1/50th from that angle. Which one's better? This one? I think this one. So there's 1/40th wider rather than vertical. And again 1/40th wide. So now the question is, do I like, was it this one? 1/40th this way, where you get a little bit more here, but you're skipping off the top, or 1/40th here, you get more of the top, but you're missing the bottom. I prefer this one. So this is the one that we're going to go with. Contrast, bring in the clarity, but not too much. You can see the sprays coming all the way back up, 30, 45 feet. Bit of colour, not too much. We do need shadows on this one. But we don't want to blow out this rock here. But that's okay. Remember, when we dehaze, we will shift everything to the left. So we are darkening the picture. Oh, way too much, way too much. So in doing that, we can bring in and there you go. Black and white colour. I do actually prefer the colour on this one, especially with the brown water. Export, export. This is the other side of that rock, and that's your drop off that I was talking about. It is literally a good 30-45 feet. Slightly straighter. Here's the bridge I was standing on earlier. These are just more shots for myself to remember things. Low angle shot of the bridges. There we go. Low angle shot. Actually, that's not too bad. Low angle shot of the bridge with water streaming down and Little bit in shadows, 1/2000th of a second to 1/100th. Did it bring it up anymore? Now that one might be a little bit too much. That's 1/50th. Let's go with this one. Bring up the contrast, which darkens here. So we bring up the shadows to bring that back. Bring in some color. Got colours in the trees. Don't want to make this too brown, but I do want the colours in the trees here. Don't really need to mess with the highlights too much. And probably don't need to dehaze all that much either. And this one we can actually increase the exposure just a tad. Bit more in the shadows, and there's a nice picture. Black and white. No, prefer the colour on this one. Export, export, and as you can see we're virtually done. This is the 1/50th of a 1/50th of a second, and then this was a couple of shots on the way back out. The trees and the fence were in the way, so that's us fairly much done with the high falls. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learnt something from it, and we'll get on to our next editing session fairly soon. This was a 250-mile trip, round trip, of which I, as you saw right now, I probably got about a dozen photographs that I really liked. I didn't take that many. There was only 95 pictures taken. So 250 miles for 95 pictures, of which there's a dozen that stood out. But I got to see something, I got to learn something, so there's always that angle to it as well. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to see you again in our next editing session.